Sonicware, the independent Japanese company that brought us products like ELZ1 and the other Livens, surprised us earlier this week when chumming on out and dropping the Lofi-12 right on out of the blue, making a whatchamacallit flirt with the old school 12-bit samplers. It's a so small, portable sampler with a 4-track sequencer, running on batteries. Marketed toward bedroom producers of the genre lo-fi and child, this claims to be the shit, but is it?
Review.
Lofi-12 is the 4th sibling in the LIVEN series, the first one with sampling capability. Look at this beauty right here, it's a nostalgia tease. For my interpretation, there's a couple of different generations and definitions of lo-fi. Old generation is old school samplers and low sample rates and bit rates, hard and crunchy boom bap. The new generation, lo-fi and child, is when white people such as myself take a guitar loop, a drum loop, and put some tape warble on it, also accompanied by a picture of some plants and a Japanese anime child studying. Hence the name, lo-fi and child. Sonicware are merging both of these worlds, and I like them both. Looking at the color scheme of this thing, we're getting some serious inspiration vibes from Akai's line of samplers from the late 80s to mid 90s. One would think it's a miniature X7000, S700, maybe S950, or MPC 60, which sounds and looks great, but is horrible to work on by today's standards. Look at these analog influencers of the era. I want to party with them. Sound-wise, it sounds more like a S612, or perchance in Sonic EPS. Look at that sexy ass hard drive right there. Sound and color scheme wise, it's similar, but operationally, it's nothing like any of them. It's just LIVEN. Runs on 6 AA batteries, and let me tell you, I finished them up in one day, so get a power bank or an adapter. Got sync in and out, MIDI in and out, line in and out, and a headphone jack, and a speaker that does pack some juice. It is sufficient enough for portable action. Here's a simple beat I made with the stock sounds. Yeah, no, the lead synth would be impossible to sequence on there. I'll show you why later. Let's have us a listen to some of the stock sounds on here. First bank is a bunch of one-shot drums. Next we got some instruments. Getting some Super Nintendo Amiga vibes from some of these. The tracks have different play modes. So if I want to play this realistic careless whisper sound saxophone, I can switch from poly to mono to legato, which is what we need here for our ultra realistic sound. Beauty. It's also got this cool little pitch bend function. So if you hold down function and press octave up or down, you get this bend on note on. Finally, you just got an ARP. Let's find a sound that works with the ARP later. Next bank is a bunch of bread and butter loops. Down pitching aliasing. Alright, the last play mode is the ARP. Arpeggiator. Arpeggiatori. Alright, get ready because we're about to get into the sampling part. It's the whole point of a sampler, right? The Lofi-12 is able to produce the most soothing sounds imaginable, but it's all about what you push inside of it. You could add some artificial crackle on top, but instead of wasting a track on that, I recommend you sample something from vinyl. The plants are happy now. I'm going to sample something from my Retroid Pocket here, and I'm just going to find a sound first that I don't mind getting rid of, and we're going to sample the C note into the Lofi-12. It holds 128 samples, but you can only sample a maximum of 4 seconds into one. See them flashing red lights right there? That's the input level. So I'm going to adjust it a little bit. Make sure we got some nice gain going in. Sample time. Next I'm going to save the sample and then go back into it. We'll have a look at some of the edit parameters. Check out my tutorial videos if you want the nitty-gritty on how to chop samples and stuff. This overlay right here, very helpful in the sample edit mode. It's got all the basics you would expect from a basic sampler. Start and end points, simple envelope, pitch, loop mode and loop points. We got a nice loop going there. Some very nostalgic, retro, Super Nintendo-ish sounding synthesizer pad. 2.5 out of 5 amazing for sample editing. Listen close, you'll hear that aliasing shimmer. Let's sample a drum break and pitch it. Loop points can be pretty fun to mess around with. What about the sequencing though? Let's get rid of the overlay and let me give you a speed run of the workflow on this. First of all, you got 16 patterns in each bank, and there are 4 banks. So that's a total of, I don't know, 55. Using these octave buttons in pattern mode, you can switch between the banks. You got 4 different tracks to work with per pattern, and most of these settings are related to the tracks. You would imagine you can only have one sample assigned to one of these tracks. But the parameter lock is our golden friend. That allows us to automate the sample switches per steps. So I'm on track 1 right now, and for each step we can set which sample should be triggered. Next we're going to switch our metronome on, and we're going to crank up the volume of that. 3. Set the BPM of the pattern. Set the length of the track. You can double the beats up or use the value to get an uneven number. Set the parameter lock to rec mode, important for switching samples. Record, and add a kick drum. What's that? A clap. Moving on with the clap on the same track. Switch to track 2, add a sample. Another sample on bar 2. Add some parameter locks if you wish to each step. Customizable. Bus line on track 3. Track effects on track 4. And if you want to, you can assign the master effect. Applies to all sounds at the same time. We got a few different ones to choose from, including tunnels and different shit. When you're done, save your pattern. And if you want to make some variations of it, save the pattern again, but choose a different pattern slot. That will essentially make a copy of it. So pick 10, done. Here's some trash. I want to put this kick drum down exactly like that, not quantized, no nothing. It's always locked to a 16th note grid. The only way we can fix this is by using swing or the laid back parameter. The laid back thing shifts the whole track, or you could do it per step. But if you want to get detailed with that, it's so much work. Ultimately, for me, it's so bad to the point that I'm probably not going to use it much. Each track has an independent effects. Let's go through all of them. So maybe you noticed that there's a low pass and a high pass filter, but there's a couple of other effects. There is the 12-bit mode you can switch on or off, and there's a whole bunch of filters independent of the track effect. So it's possible to use, for example, a low pass filter and a compressor at the same time. We also got a nice little LFO that we can assign to the filter and the pitch of the sample. Let's go through the master effects. That should showcase a large part of the operations with the Lofi-12 for you. Let me give you my verdict. The Lofi-12 sounds beautiful if you're into this type of lo-fi sound. Low bit rates, low sample rates. It truly sounds like an old school sampler. It's a lot of fun to play around with. Are there other ways to achieve that exact sound? Yes, very many. And even though it looks like a breeze in this video, it is a pain to sequence your beats in here, especially with the grid. Or, matter of fact, let's start with editing the samples. No way of chopping them up in a easy chop way, which a lot of people would expect from a sampler nowadays. And back to the painful sequencing, it's always locked to a 16th note grid. As you saw, it's not a huge problem. I would love to be able to decide whether it should quantize my drums or not. You can get around that. But other cases when it becomes a problem is if, for example, imagine you're strumming a beautiful Rhodes chord, and you're kind of strumming it. It's gonna hard quantize that shit. Doesn't matter if you want it or not, because you would need it to quantize it at least 128 notes to get that vibe. So it's just gonna crush the soul of it. If you're doing 4 to the floor techno or house or step sequencing and that's your thing, it's not going to be a problem for you. But this is marketed toward lo-fi hip-hop heads. And that laid-back knob, I'm afraid, is not going to cut it. I mean, selecting every single note and moving them manually to get the groove just how you want it, it's just a long and tidy process. Other minor things that bug me, there's no way to, for example, double a pattern. You can't take a 1-bar pattern and just double it up. You have to program every bar of a pattern. You can copy patterns, you can copy tracks, but you can't copy the content of a bar of a pattern. Those are the things that for me personally we're not going past a one night stand, baby. You know what I'm saying? But if you are that type of person that always makes minimalistic beats, maybe straight beats, maybe straight up loops, just like some Griselda shit, whatever the kids call it nowadays, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, portable, cheap, great sound. For me, if the things that bug me were fixed, yeah, I might use it some more for like building some foundations for beats and then building more on them. But I'm really rooting for the SmplTrek to become my portable sampler. So I would hope that both the development teams put their energy and effort into straightening that out first, and then go ahead and fix these minor details with the Lofi-12. They put a lot of hard work into it, so it'd be a shame to trip on the finish line. Another thing that would be a nice bonus is, since your beats are bound to be pretty minimalistic with it, it would be nice to have some more performance effects, sort of like the OPZ, because that has the same issue. I mean, you're not going to write virtuoso masterpiece sequences on it. It's simple sequences. They have a good solution for making it sound more interesting, even though there's not a lot happening. It's charming, it's cheap, it sounds nice. I have other easier ways of getting the job done. I'll leave it up to you to judge if it suits your workflow. This is just my personal opinion. And on that note, let me give you a little Christmas greeting. This one is produced on the Lofi-12.
Ladies and gents, misters and misses, what's on your wish list for Christmas? Is it a visit from St. Nicholas, or is it something different? Is it a state of indifference or making a difference? Is it a nickel in the wishing well, or simply more acids domiciled in Mauritius? Or is it iPhone 16, big screens and cams with 666 megapixels? Is it a sip of Jim Beam? Is it to live the dream? Is it reminiscing of the past, planning for the future, or simply something in between? Is it the bigger picture or the smithereens? Is it to see, hear and smell things? Is it to do what you can with what you have before the bell rings?
There's only a limited amount of Christmas holidays in a lifetime. Make sure you celebrate that shit like there's no tomorrow.
What's that stacked under the Christmas tree? Can't wait for the St. Nicholas tree. Typically it ain't that much statistically, but all I want for Christmas is you.
To be truthful to you, I don't know what the fuck I wish for. Maybe for me to stop wishing things of myself. I'll give you the finest things. Doesn't matter if I'm piss poor, but giving myself a break isn't a card I've been dealt. Just wanna ride the elevator. At which floor do we get off? Is it the rooftop bar? It's the rooftop bar? Okay, whatever. It's Christmas, let's get it on. Bring the schnapps,
OP,
Santa hats
on me.
Doesn't matter what you give me, cause it's all about the memories. And let's remember we'll be gone in a century. And that's what Christmas is all about. My G, my G, my G, my G, my G, my G.
Make sure you celebrate that shit like there's no tomorrow.
What's that stacked under the Christmas